naturally. I always say that, but it's not natural after I've said that. So
Naturally. Okay.
How long have we got you for, Charlie?
Well, I just said I'd meet everyone because we're going to see Jojo Rabbit at 3:20.
Oh, I really want to see that.
So,
That looks great. Where are you going to watch that? Are you going to?
Oh, unfortunately, at Cineworld.
Have you had your tetanus?
As much as I regret going there, you have to.
We haven't got a lot of choice, have we? Really?
No.
The thing is, the one in Telford is amazing. It's beautiful. It's amazing. You can,
Hasn't it just been redone?
Oh, right.
It's not recently.
It's a brand new one. It's a brand new.
Yeah.
Whereas the one in Shrewsbury is,
No.
Well, I've been to the. Actually, can I take? Is that better? Can I do it like that?
You can do.
Just a bit
Just
weird. Talking to you directly, and there's this massive echo going on around.
Yeah.
Rather sweet though.
Help yourself.
Help yourself.
No, I've been to the IMAX there a few times, but not that many.
Yeah.
Because I don't like 3D. So if you want to go see it 3D, it's like it's got to be. No, if you want to go to the IMAX, it tends to be the 3D ones. So
Anyway, guys, welcome to the Shrewsbury Biscuit podcast. I'm your host, Alex Whiteley, and my other hosts alongside me are Shane Hinton. Say hi, Shane.
Hello.
How's it going? And Jules. How's it going, Jules?
It's going fine, thank you. Hello.
And joined with us today is a very special guest, Shrewsbury superstar, I gotta say, because he's everywhere. Everywhere you look at Charlie Adlard,
everywhere.
Hello, I can't talk now. I've got a sweet. Just carry on without me.
It's like Ben Butler. He put.
He was like,
I think it's a bad idea. We put hard-boiled sweets in front of people. Thank you very much for coming on the show. It's really good to speak to you again. I mean, you were the first sort of person I had on a podcast that, gave me the nerves and the kind of thing that comes with speaking.
This has been your first interaction with Alex has been stuff of legend on the other podcast. We constantly rib Alex for his reaction. For some reason, he has a really weird reaction around you. He turns into this weird teenage girl.
he said he's like a little fangirl.
Yeah.
This is
Fan girl.
Girl.
What's the first thing I said to you when you came to my house? I was like, it's a Judgment Day today, isn't it? It's the Charlie Adlard Day. Because the first interview we did for Thorskin was actually really good, and I was really worried. I bought all nice things, teas and everything. You're just down to earth, a normal human being, which is, and you expect otherwise when you're speaking to a superstar like yourself. So it went really well. And then for some reason, every time I saw you after that, I was kind of like, it's Charlie.
Not even joking.
And then there was the stolen handshake. The stolen handshake.
Stolen handshake.
See, it means nothing to you. It means, but to me, it was just like, oh my god.
I remember now. What's the stolen handshake?
The opener at Comics Salopia, we were chatting to the mayor. We were getting pictures of the mayor.
Oh yeah.
And you came over. And I think you mentioned me in your speech. I was Charlie he knows my name. Anyway, so
I did spend an hour in your house.
And then I went to shake your hand to say thank you for mentioning me in your speech. That was really nice of you. And as I went to shake your hand, the mayor, Phil Gillam, reached out for your hand, and I kind of grabbed your hand whilst you were mid-shake with the mayor's hand. You did like a really quick thanks, and then shook the mayor's hand. I was kind of like, what an idiot! What an idiot!
So the first thing he did, he turned around to me, rung me up, and he was like, you never guess what I just did.
Right.
Yeah, it's the world of Alex.
I apologise if that's a thing.
Just pull that mic down just a little bit, so it's right in front of you.
Oh, it's just...
Yeah, that's it. Yeah,
perfect.
Nice. So let's introduce you to people. If people are blind and crazy, haven't seen you about...
They have no life.
Yes, obviously, because I'm that famous. I can't go into town without being mugged.
But if you're aware of the craze of like The Walking Dead, for example, you would know who you are. I mean, I guess. I mean, you were telling me that you can go to Walker Stalker sometimes and people won't even know who you are. But I mean...
Well, I can go to Walker Stalker because that's mainly TV show stuff. So they don't know who this rather weird comic character... Well, not character. That's like comics guy sat behind a table drawing stuff. What's he?
Yeah. And that's the kind of thing we were trying to address with Comics Salopia, was that it's the comic book stars that are the stars, and then that is what comes after that. That's
Too right.
Yes. Yeah, damn right. And you're a Shrewsbury guy.
I am indeed. Born and bred.
First of all, how was your Christmas and your New Year? Did you have a good Christmas?
Yeah, it was good. It was I always say it's uneventful, but that's how you want Christmas and New Year to be. Uneventful. Totally. Just the usual. Yeah, it was good. It was good.
Yeah, I saw you in Brazil shortly before Christmas, though, weren't you?
Did you see me in Brazil? You were out there as well. You did. It was another stolen handshake.
He does stalk you.
He did say fangirl, didn't he? So
I was, yes. First week in December, I was out at CXPP, or was it CXXP? I can't remember. But 280,000 people at that thing is mad.
Wow.
How was that for you? Was it busy?
It was good. It's not the sort of cons I normally do because it was a pop culture one, like San Diego or New York or whatever. And I don't generally enjoy those because, the comic book stuff is pretty much kicked to the extremities because of it. But in all power to them, they did put Artist Alley where I was sat right in the middle of this massive convention centre. Unlike some of the others, they stick them right to the side. But it was quite insane. Those sort of things are just mad. So many people, and you go in and it's just this massive arena, and there's all these massive booths set up. Netflix, Amazon, Marvel, DC, all these sort of things, huge, great booths with lots of stuff to look at, but not much to do, and actually it was, don't get me wrong, it was very well done, and I was treated brilliantly by all the staff and everything, but hardly any dealers or anything, hardly any shops. There were the branded stuff in the booths and things like that. But at least San Diego has a massive area where, there's a load of...
something.
You can buy stuff,
Funko Pops, wall to wall.
Yeah, well, there's a lot of that. There was the odd dealer there, but it was like fun.
Does it get to a point where you could go to a Comic-Con anywhere in the world and you just... It doesn't even feel like a different country. They all like universally look the same.
Well, something like that is, again, it was a bit box ticky, to be honest. I've never been to South America, so it was I can say I've been to South America. Yeah. But I try and get in a few days earlier, so at least I can see the city or the country or whatever, which I did for São Paulo in Brazil. But you see, the con was out of town, so you were bussed from the hotel out to this convention every day. So there was and there wasn't anything around, the convention itself. So you did feel a bit trapped, to be honest, as well. You couldn't really just go out of the con and have a quick wander down the street or anything. There wasn't a street to wander down. It was just in a park with a big freeway going past one side and things like that. So, I did spend 4 days just... But the good thing was I sort of sorted out with Greenpeace before I went out there, because I'm a big Greenpeace supporter. And I sort of talked to Greenpeace and basically we arranged to have Greenpeace Brazil turn up and sit on my table, and I signed and sketched for Greenpeace. Obviously the stuff going on out there is utterly unacceptable. So it was good to raise 4,000 quid. In 4 days, so I was well chuffed with that.
Oh, that's excellent. Nice. Yeah, really
so
good.
It was worth going just to do that, to be honest.
Just that alone is worth it.
Yeah, absolutely. It was worth it. However many thousand miles I travelled just to get there.
Well, from that, let's talk about kind of where this all began. Because you say you're from Shrewsbury. Whereabouts in Shrewsbury did you grow up around?
I was born, just literally, locally, right in the middle of, not in the middle of town. But,
on the square.
Stork delivered me and dropped me in the square.
I was there at the ceremony of that.
But just real local, not even out of town. My dad, for anyone that knows, Adlard's tobacconist.
We were going to ask that.
Yes. One of our questions.
That's my dad's. There you go. Cross that off the list. That's my dad is still alive. He's 91, but he retired nearly 30 years ago. But the people that took over the shop kept the name because it obviously had reputation.
Yeah.
So that was the business, family business. Obviously, I didn't go into it. So just brought up here, did my education here, did the usual move away to art college, and down in Maidstone, moved to London for a bit, didn't work out in London, moved back here.
It's quite a common story with a lot of people we've had on the Biscuit. It's like, there's no place like home.
Yeah. I mean, I probably moved back a bit earlier than a lot of people because I was back here in my, I suppose, mid to late 20s, probably 26-ish. I didn't spend that. I only spent after art college, and I was in Maidstone, so it felt like I was living in London a lot of the time.
So there's not much difference in London and Kent, is there?
No, it's a commuter town as well, Maidstone, so there's nothing much going on in Maidstone, and the art college was tiny. It was only 300 students, so most of the time I was travelling up for London for weekends because there's nothing going on in Maidstone, so it did kind of feel like I was living there for almost 3 years prior to actually living there. But I was only there for sort of 8 months, if that. And then like I say,
how did you find that city life though? Because I mean, I'm a Shrewsbury boy, born and bred, and I couldn't live in a city. It was a funny thing because the reason I went to Maidstone was because it felt slightly like Shrewsbury. Right. Yeah.
That was one of my big sort of decisions as to go there. It was a college. It was in a similar sort of campus. It was bigger than Tech up on London Road, but it was kind of similar in that layout.
Same
and
kind of feel,
And my art foundation the year before, done when the foundation was up at London Road, was probably one of the best years of my life. Just in terms of I was making new friends. But also half of my old school friends were still hanging around, whether they're on gap years or just got jobs or whatever. So I was getting this great social scene going on, and I naively thought that going to a town similar, it would be a similar social scene. Of course it's not, because you don't know anyone.
No.
It's as simple as that. And I think it's harder in a lot of ways to get to know that many people in a small town.
And I imagine there's so much noise going on. There's so many people, so many artists out there want to make it in London. It must be hard to shine in that,
Well, in London it was. I mean, I wasn't going to London sort of with the intention of working, not in those first 3 years at college. I was just going there socially. I was in a band and stuff, and we were actually laughably trying to take it seriously. So a lot of the times I was just going up to either do gigs or rehearse or whatever. But I mean, it was a very, at Maidstone, it was a very fine art course. It wasn't a technical film course. That's what I was doing. I was doing film and video because obviously there's no courses to do comic books anywhere. Well, not at the time, anywhere in the country. But so I just would go up to London, do my band thing, come back, do some filming for the next 5 days, and go back up to London.
I'm on set this week, Mum.
You've got a question. Obviously, you were just saying about that. It's like, it was sort of like more fine art and not comics. So at what point did you move into like comic book illustration then?
Oh, well, I mean, I've been drawing comics since I was about 6 or 7, you see. And literally around about that age, that's when I decided that's what I wanted to do, literally. And I spent my formative years with that in my head all the way through school. I was like, I'm going to be a comic book artist. I'm going to blah, blah, blah. It was only until I went to foundation. It was only until, I went to Shrewsbury School. So I was at public school, and the way they sort of educate you there, and don't get me wrong, I actually had a pretty good time there, but the way they educate you there obviously is they put you on a set path. Yeah. And the set path is you go to the schools, you go to university. It's as simple as that. There's not many, and probably even more so back in this was the early 80s. Even more so then, your path was pretty much set. And so I was kind of, I suppose for want of a better word, doctrinated, into thinking that myself. So, I knew I was going to go to university. I knew I was going to do art. That was a given. Yeah. But when I got to doing art A level, I was thinking, I can't do comics because there is not such a thing.
Yeah. So what do you do now?
It was kind of like that. What's the closest I can do? Yeah. And then when I was on my art foundation course, it was a bit of an eye-opener in terms of, I can always recommend it to any person looking to do art. It's a brilliant thing to do. And it sort of worked for me in the way that at least it opened my eyes to other possibilities. And the thing that really sort of started to fire me up was, filmmaking. So I suppose you could argue it's quite close to comics because it's sequential, it's storytelling, etc., etc.
Yeah.
But then I chose Maidstone probably for the wrong reasons. There were probably better courses I would have been better at going to. I remember doing this, going down with my dad and doing blitzing the sort of the southeast, about 3 or 4 art colleges, or probably more, at the same time. I was knackered. It was a whole long weekend of doing that, and I came back and remember the guy doing film and video at the foundation course saying, "Oh, there's this really good course up in Sheffield," and I don't want to know. I've done enough. I've made my decision.
Yeah.
And in hindsight, that course in Sheffield would have been brilliant, and it would have been a big city. And again, looking back, in hindsight, I should have gone to a city.
I mean, so obviously your dad owned the tobacconist and stuff. I mean, how did he? When you decided to go into art and stuff? There obviously must have been a conversation at some point where you sort of said, "What
about the family business?
I don't want to go into tobacco. I want to do comics."
My mum and dad have been brilliant. They've always been really supportive. I think, to be honest, when I said I'd finished with the band when I moved back from London, I think my mum and dad were so relieved I wasn't doing the band that
anything.
Yeah, comic art seemed to be the much safer option, So, but no, I think they could always see I had a talent, and my dad had never ever said to me once, "Don't you think this, the business would be something you consider?" And also, I think my dad, by the time I was probably in my 20s, could see the writing on the wall vis-a-vis the tobacco industry, especially in the UK. I think the profits were, coming down by this time. So I think he could see that if I took over the shop or took over the business, the good times are over, sort of thing.
Yeah.
So I don't think he was that upset. Just purely because of that.
I think that's the thing as well. If you've got, because obviously some people have parents, don't they, pressure them to a certain direction, particularly when it's a family business. There is always that expectation. So obviously, you said earlier, from 6 or 7, you knew exactly what you wanted to do.
Yeah, but I was kind of one of these rare kids.
And obviously, so they've obviously picked up on that and helped. I
think so.
Not directed you in a certain direction, but let you go your own way. What comics inspired you back then? What was it? Like, what were your favourite comics back then that made you sort of think,
Well, again, my dad was really instrumental in this because he came home back in 1972 when I was either 6 or 7, I can't remember the actual month, with a copy of The Mighty World of Marvel #1, which was the British reprint of all the, obviously, classic Marvel comics. And it was the first time you could get them sequentially, issue 1, issue 2, issue 3, in this country. Printed black and white anthologies, which works in this country. Grand tradition of Dandy and Beano, basically. So I remember that's one of my earliest memories is my dad coming in that evening and he had something behind his back. And I do remember they actually advertised it on telly as well, the actual comic. I do remember that. I remember seeing it on TV and getting very excited. This sort of magical thing, because there used to be a comic before that. I think it was called they were called Wham and Pow.
I remember Wham.
And they were typical sort of, dandy, low rent, I suppose, Dandy and Beanos or whatever. But in the middle, they had a colour section. Well, it was either colour or 2-colour, I can't remember. But it was a double page of Marvel comics. And I remember then, even younger than 6, being so much more drawn to that than, the sort of the classic British, funnies. And it was only until then Mighty World of Marvel came out I realised what they were and where they came from and everything.
See, Dad, this guy, Mr. Lee, he made it.
Well, my dad really liked it because my dad's always really liked that sort of florid language. That's how the comics were written back in the 60s. He especially enjoyed the Silver Surfer and Thor because of the way they spoke. So he liked that. So I think he kind of connected with it on that level.
Have you still got that?
I wish I had.
Oh, I bet you do.
I know. I don't know if they're worth any money, the old collections, because obviously they're reprints. They're not the originals.
No.
But they must be worth a bit.
They've got to be worth something, especially if they are back from the 70s and that.
Oh, God, yeah. I mean, 72.
There was that shop that's gone now, I think, House of Jumble down on Latch. It's gone now. But they had, like, Beanos from all over the collections. And I was kind of like, are they oh, okay.
But there used to be... Where the short stay car park is now, opposite Montgomery Towers.
Yeah.
Do you remember there used to be a massive multi-storey car park there?
I don't. I've seen, because I'm not from Shrewsbury, but I have seen photos of it.
There used to be a massive multi-storey car park rising out there, and under it there was a petrol station. My dad always used to. We lived, I think, just like up. We probably were, where were we by then? Oh, Port Hill. We lived up Port Hill. So that was the nearest petrol station, go and fill up the car. And we used to they were running a promotion. And at one point, around about the same time, one of the promotions was you fill up your car enough times and you get an Asterix book. So it was around about the same time. So I read Asterix as well as Marvel. And... again, formative years. I mean, I've always been a massive Asterix fan ever since.
I love Asterix.
But unbeknownst to me, I didn't realise it was French, obviously, at the time. And what I found out not that long ago was when Asterix was first reprinted in this country back in the 60s, before they published it as the proper volumes. I can't remember what comic it was in, but it was published sort of as a serial in some British publication, and he was rebranded to being a British a Celt or something like
that. Oh, wow,
this.
okay.
I don't know whether it was called Asterix the Celt or whatever, but it was translated, and all the names were more British. Well, I think the names stayed the same, but everything that might have been French was put into it's set in Britain. But yes, again, so on one side I was reading American comics, on the other side, I didn't realise at the time, I was reading what they call bande dessinée, which is the French comic books, which I've had a lifelong passion and love of ever since.
Yeah, I do like the Asterix ones. The big guy is Obelix. Obelix, he's one of my favourite characters because he's so strong. He just knocked people into the air and stuff.
He fell into the potion when he was a baby, into the magic potion. He's permanently strong.
We didn't have a lot of money when I was growing up, but we had there was a selection of comics and stuff that we collected over the years, and there was a couple of them that were Asterix, and one was the one where they played rugby. Somebody picked in Britain.
I know them all. Don't worry, you're going to instantly bring them up.
What was the
Asterix introduced tea to the UK?
Yeah,
according to Goscinny and Uderzo, the creators anyway, in Asterix in Britain, because before in the story all they drink is hot water.
Yeah,
and Asterix near the end says, "Why do you try doing this?" And he sort of crumbled some tea leaves into the tea, and there's like this magic moment, hot water and milk. That's what they used to drink, apparently. So it's Asterix introduced tea to.
I imagine there'd been some sort of French humour there, kind of.
Oh yes.
So what was the breakthrough moment for you? The moment when you're like, Dad, I did it.
I did it. I'm in.
That first moment.
Well, I moved back from London after failing dismally with the band, and I just moved home for a while because obviously I couldn't afford to get my own place because I had no money, and I was lucky because I could stay at my parents' fairly obviously cheaply, so I didn't have to get a job, which was great. So I could concentrate on my portfolio and just sign on and just carry on like that, it took me about 2 years. I was going to as many conventions in the UK as I could. Now we're talking mid-80s. I think I left art college. Hang on, no, it's late 80s, isn't it? Because I left school at 84, 85, 86, 88, 89, something like that. So it took about 2 years. So I was going every year to at least one in London and one in Glasgow. They had two big inverted commas. But what is good about the conventions at that time were comics were huge in terms of, The Dark Knight, Watchmen and everything had come out. everyone was raving about how comics had, inverted commas, grown up. And the companies, well, mainly Marvel and DC, had money, so they could send American editors over here as opposed to us having to go over there and see people. So every Glasgow Comic Convention, every, what's fortunately called UCAC, UK Comic Art Convention.
Someone didn't think that.
No, they didn't think of the anachronism, did they? But anyway, and there'd be at least a dozen plus editors you could approach, which is great, which is unfortunately what you can't do nowadays at shows, well, especially in this country. So, I was just going crazy with the portfolio.
Mind you, we saw that at Comics Salopia, didn't we? We saw like loads of people that were there just to show people their portfolio.
Yeah, but there's minimal editors. I think we had a guy from IDW and that was it, wasn't it?
In fact, I can actually, one of the things I can sort of a little bit of a snapshot, I can remember talking to Phil, I think it's Phil Davis. I stood there watching, I think it was you and two other artists, I can't remember who they were now. They'll come to me in a bit.
I think it's Frank. Was it Frank?
Yeah, one of them was Frank, and there was another one. And the three of you were looking at this kid's portfolio of what he was doing, and it was quite interesting because he got so much experience, and this kid was just sat there like. And I remember saying to Phil, I was like, this kid is never going to get this ever again in his life. And he's just sat there and all three of you were going through his...
I think I was just passing by as well.
Literally. And you were giving him pointers and giving him advice and stuff, and he was just there and you could just see it. He was just soaking it up. And I was and from an external perspective, I was like, that kid's got to literally just download as much of this as possible into his head. Because literally he's never going to have this opportunity ever again. And it was really good to see.
Do you think when you were doing that though, when you were going around with your portfolio, was that the time to do it? Was that because, like you said, nowadays it must be a lot harder?
Well, I will say I've always been a big believer in meeting and greeting. Actually physically getting out there and meeting people rather than just staying at home and either digitally sending it out or just saying, "Oh, here's my website, here's my Instagram," or whatever. I think it was really useful for me, and I still think it is. So I always advise people, I know it's a lot of money, but I said if you can get to the States or even go to somewhere like Angoulême, which I'm going to the end of the month in France, go out to these places where there's going to be editors and stuff, because those are the people that are going to give you jobs. Just randomly sticking stuff online might work. Don't get me wrong, and the opportunities for that are infinitesimally more than what I had, obviously. But
there's so many people doing it, isn't it? That's the problem.
That's the problem. You could easily get lost in the crowd, but similar, you could get lost in the crowd back in my day, because obviously if you didn't meet these people, the only other way to do it would be to send your submissions to a submissions editor, and you weren't even guaranteed that inverted commas submissions editor was doing his job. It might just get put in a pile, like say, lost in the crowd again. So that's why I always advocated you need to shake the hands and make yourself memorable. So be polite, dress smart if you have to, It is that sort of thing.
First impressions, and you've only got seconds, really.
Exactly. If you schlep up sort of just with your couple of pages and then you kind of go, oh, well, that's not my best work. My best work's... and it's at the back, and the editor's thinking, well, why have you done that? Why have you put it at the back? So many people do that. If you're going to somebody and making excuses, it's not worth you doing it. It's as simple as that. You got to go in there with the confidence. If you don't believe in yourself, they're not going to give you a job.
I suppose with regards to going in person as well, that it shows a bit of passion for what you're doing. Like you said, if you
made the effort, exactly.
If anyone could just post something online and be like, anybody employ me,
Exactly.
But if you're actually knocking on doors and like shaking people's hands and being like this is what I've done,
if you say
employ me,
you might as well tell people I've come X hundreds / thousands of miles to do this,
and whatever I am doing wrong, I can learn.
Well, it does show. It does show. Yes, I am willing to listen. If you're not going to give me a job, at least I'm going to
give me advice.
Absolutely.
It's like you say, it's knowing where to go, though, isn't it? It's knowing where those editors are going to be.
Yeah, exactly. And at the moment, anywhere in this country, there's some great cons and festivals in this country, but no one gets the American or French or Japanese anywhere. No one gets editors anymore because the companies can't really afford to send them, and the festivals or conventions can't really afford to bring them in. They might pay for one or two, but it's not like I say, in my day, it wasn't the conventions that were bringing in the editors; it was the companies that were flying out 5, 6, 7, 8 editors at a time. So it's the companies that can't afford it, unfortunately. But they can afford it to do in their home country. It's a lot cheaper.
Absolutely. I mean, with Chip Kidd and stuff, like you were absolutely starstruck, weren't you? Because you were just like.
So was I.
Oh, yeah. To be fair, I remember you sitting there. In fact, I remember at one point you did give him a bit of a grilling, didn't you?
Oh well, that's it. He's an interesting guest in terms of the man has such amazing credentials. And he's so good and skilled at what he does.
He's just so relaxed as well. So natural.
But is he a good guest for the general populace? Probably not. He's not somebody that's going to get the crowds in. Someone like
Seth MacFarlane.
Someone I'm just trying to think of someone like Frank Quietly would if we're talking someone who lives in the UK, he'll get the crowds in, he'll get a decent queue. But Chip Kidd will not have if he sat there and signed, he would not have a big queue. That's no disrespect to him. It's just his field of work is fairly anonymous.
It's almost like undercover.
He's the artist. We're all sort of like bowing down to him and going, we're not worthy. But it's the same. I mean, my favourite artist of all time is probably a guy called Alex Toth, and he's not that well known outside of a kind of our circle.
So if you know, you know.
Because he never worked. He's dead now, unfortunately. But he was sort of prominent in the 50s and 60s, and then in the 70s, he designed a lot of Hanna-Barbera stuff. Right. So he was famous. His most famous design was Space Ghost for Hanna-Barbera, but he did loads. He moved in that because it's more lucrative at the time. But because he never really worked for Marvel or DC, he did a bit here and there. But because he never worked on a big character for a long time or anything, he had no sort. He was not Jack Kirby. He was not Jim Stranko. He was not John Buscema. But he stands, in my opinion, head and shoulders above all of those. But again, as an artist, he would have if you sat those four that I've just mentioned in a table, if they were all still alive. Unfortunately, only Jim Stranko's still with us, but. The other three would have a huge queue. Alex Toth would have quite a small queue, but it'd all be artists.
But that's good. That's good for you. That's good for you, though, isn't it?
It's good for you because you get instant access. Exactly.
I am your biggest fan.
Absolutely.
And this is what I say on the show all the time. Inspiration works in funny ways, and it doesn't really matter if it's the biggest. If it inspires you, it inspires you, and that's the most important thing.
I mean, another funny, well, not funny story, but little story is years ago there was this big convention at Alexandra Palace. They only did it the once, so it was a good, amazing location to have it and everything in London. And I remember the two big guests were Jim Lee, for those of you who don't know, very famous artist back in the 80s, 90s, and he did loads of famous characters, Batman, bloody X-Men, he presided over the biggest selling comic of all time, which was X-Men #1, wasn't it, back in the late 80s, I think, wasn't it? Sold about 6 million or something crazy like that. And anyway, so he's a big deal in American comic books. He's a good artist, don't get me wrong. Anyway, the other guy was Jean Girard, Mobius, the French artist, the guy that designed
the guy
that worked on Alien and
oh wow,
and worked with Jodorowsky on the failed Dune attempt, and just one of the most influential artists of all time in France. So to my mind, God, Mobius is here. I can't remember him ever coming over again. Unfortunately, he's dead now, but I can't remember him coming over since. I don't know actually if he ever came over before. But anyway, the queue to Mobius was quite big. The queue to Jim Lee was 3 times longer. And yeah, like I say, Jim's a good artist.
Yeah,
but it's bloody Mobius, sat literally next to him or on the opposite end of the room. So yeah, to give the cue room, And you just thought it's the wrong way around.
Yeah.
It really is the wrong way around.
Yeah.
As this man that influenced so many people, his style was just so incredibly innovative. Yeah, it sometimes it feels wrong, but you can never predict popularity.
I know,
exactly.
I know who would agree is Eric Pfluger. Yes. Our friend Eric Pfluger is an amazing artist, really intricate pencil work and stuff. And he talks about Geiger.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Geiger.
I always say Geiger.
I say it a different way every single time.
It could be Giger.
He talks about that guy as if he's a hero, and like when he'll be talking to us on his phone, and he'll show us his library, books and books and books, and he'll have like 2 rows of books just on Geiger himself, and he talks about him as if he's his hero. Do you know what I mean? And a lot of people don't know who he is, but he's really influential.
Well,
artist,
again, Alien. Yeah. He designed that Alien Mobius did all the kind of spaceships and that in conjunction with a couple of other artists. It wasn't just him, but Geiger was the guy that the space jockey, the alien, the ship, the aliens on, all that biomechanical sort of stuff. That's all his.
Oh, so beautiful.
Yeah.
We are on a tangent anyway. So,
Yep.
We did. So Charlie, what was your big break?
How do we get onto that? Anyway,
What was the first big
job? Oh, the big break. Well, at the end, I just kept plugging away, and then one year, about 2 years in, I did the Glasgow show, and in my portfolio, I started working with, here's another bit of advice, I started working with a writer because I don't write. So I started working with a writer because it gives you the opportunity, it saves you trying to sort of half construct a story, but you're not particularly enthusiastic about it because you don't write. So therefore, you sort of, that bit of it is all not very good. So yeah, you can do a sequence and everything, but it's a lot easier working with a writer.
A bit of context,
So I was working with the writer, and we'd done a 2000 AD story, just a short story. And so obviously I approached the editors at 2000 AD, and well, they seemed to be quite impressed. And that's right, just before that I'd shown my work to a Scottish writer called Alan Grant, and at the time Alan was a big deal in comic books. He sort of co-wrote with John Wagner, another local,
and
big fan of the show. And they wrote a lot of stuff together and separately. But Alan at the time was also writing Batman, and bearing in mind this was post the Tim Burton Batman films, so Batman was selling again millions in terms of comic books, and so I knew Alan vaguely, and I showed him my latest stuff, and he seemed to like it as well. And I said, well, if I go and show it to the editors, would you write me a story? And he went, yeah, sure. Probably assuming that was a load of rubbish, and just that's never going to happen. So of course, I went to see the editor. Editor seemed impressed. I said, oh, well, if you like it, Alan Grant's is willing to write me a story,
And they're like, what?
And so it kind of, I won't say I played them off against each other, but I think I used it as a bit of a momentum to get something. And Alan, fair dues, he did. He wrote me a 10-page story. That was the first thing I ever had published in terms of comic books, called Judge Dredd: The Hand of Fate, and it ended up appearing in the Dredd magazine, which is the 2000 AD offshoot, which still runs today. Judge Dredd.
That must have been massive for you, though. It must have been like run home, show your mum and dad.
Oh God, yeah. I mean, it was very exciting. I mean, it was you're finally doing some professional work. B, you're drawing Judge Dredd. You're drawing an icon. And C, the scariest bit was it had to be fully painted, which I wasn't very good at. That was, I mean, the strip I did show was a fully painted strip. And at the time, there was a fashion for doing fully painted, full colour stuff, but painted stuff. People like Dave McKean and Simon Bisley had sort of come up through the ranks. And because they were so popular, everyone was like, oh, we need painted comics now. We can't just do black and white with colour on top.
It's a distinct style. So, I remember I used to have a Batman issue. I don't know where it happened to it now, but it was all watercoloured. I don't know what kind of paint it was. It was all painted. It looked amazing.
Yeah, I mean, some people still do it, but
time consuming though.
Was it one of those things where you're just like, I could do it painted, and you're like, oh.
Yeah, I pretty much. I mean, I did think, oh God. Well, the stuff I showed, like I say, was painted, but of course that was painted. In my own time without a deadline.
Yeah,
all of a sudden you've got somebody going, well, here's a script, here's 10 pages, can we have it in, I don't know how long they gave me, 3-4 weeks, something like that. You're thinking, oh, right, so I've got to do at least 2 or 3 pages a week. Fully painted that was. I can easily do 2 or 3 pages black and white. I can do a page a day, black and white, but painted, that's the time, the painting bit is the time-consuming bit. So, it was a bit of a, deadlines, okay, this is new.
So how did you go from, Judge Dredd to Walking Dead and doing zombies? I mean,
let's take that leap.
There's actually a list here of things that you've done, and they're amazing. You've got the X-Files, The Crow, Hellblazer, which, by the way, Constantine is my hero.
Oh, right. Well, I just did a variant cover to the new...
I did see it. I was like, I need to get a Constantine off Charlie at one point. So.
I enjoy drawing Constantine.
When you're free to do one, I'll pop round. Put the kettle on. Nikolai Dante, Batman, Mars Attacks, Men in Black. And I think I asked you on...
Men in Black. I never did that one.
Did you not do Men in Black?
Alex,
cross that one off the list.
Line through that one.
You had one job, Al. You had one
job. I remember you telling me you wanted to do Men in Black. Anyway, this list of things. I asked you on Thorskin, and I think it'd be good to ask you again. Sorry, drawing something like the X-Files, where it's a property that everybody knows. Mulder and Scully, everybody knows what they look like. How difficult is that as opposed to making your own characters?
Oh God, infinitely more difficult and infinitely less rewarding as well. It's literally the X-Files and let's talk about it. The Walking Dead is literally polar opposites. Because on one side with the X-Files, we were asked to do the comic book of the TV show.
Right.
So you're limited.
So it's backwards almost, isn't it?
Yeah, you're limited. It's licensed comic books. You're limited by, what's shown in the TV show, etc., etc. You can't change the characters. You can't do this. You can't do that because obviously the characters are running concurrently. So you are very, very restrained. Yeah. Obviously, The Walking Dead is the opposite because the TV show is based on what we do. So we have full creative control. It's as simple as that. We can do whatever we want, including finishing the book. Last year now. There was the TV executives couldn't step in and go, no, what are you doing? Are you insane? No, sorry, you can't tell us to do that. We are The Walking Dead.
Yeah, I was going to say, you came first.
Yeah, exactly.
TV show came second, and if it decides to run on, it'll do its own thing.
The TV show's fine. If it wants to run on for 20 more seasons, good luck.
Very good luck.
Yeah, good luck.
I stopped watching when Rick left.
So when you're thinking of a character or something or just take Negan for example or something, do you instantly have an image in your head of what that's going to look like, or do you take a bit of time to chew it over a bit?
I always say, with me, the best ideas are the ideas that come instantly. Yeah. The best idea is always the first idea. And the one that comes instantly. I know I'm onto something good when I can just go bing, like that. So if I'm struggling with it, it's very rare that it's going to be a particularly good drawing or
where's that come? So do you just get a name and the first sort of image that comes to your head, or do you get the character profile and you think I can kind of build.
Yeah, I mean, it really depends on what's written for starters. I mean, what a lot of writers do, which is really useful, is instead of spending paragraphs describing what the character looks like, they'll just say, he looks like name of celebrity, whatever, someone famous, whether it's sportsman,
point of reference,
actor. It's a point of reference. And then they just say, but with long hair or something like that. So you just Google that person, and you're like, and you go, right, okay, I've got the face shape. I know, I can see exactly what to do now. So that's always quite useful.
You've got a unique superpower though that I'd love, and that's like, the one day when you're stuck in traffic, someone cuts you up, you briefly see their face, and you can go and be like, right, you're going to get eaten by a zombie later. I am going to ruin you, and it's going to feel great.
I'm going to kill you.
So how many people have you killed?
That'll link onto it. No, not
hundreds.
So you were obviously saying about coming up with characters. So come on, where did she come from, and how did that name come about?
Oh, Lucille. Oh well, you see, that's got a really interesting genesis. Well, Negan has actually, because Robert Kirkman, the writer, said when we were going down that storyline. I did six or four? Oh no, six covers, concurrent covers in the issues, which had the Saviours, which is Negan's gang, but just their torsos, and then it was just a bit of black. About easily half the cover was just this black negative space where it would say Walking Dead and the title of the thing. So you had this half torso and a weapon. So at the time, Robert just gave me a load of suggestions. Yeah, how about one with wearing this, and he's carrying a gun or a sawn-off shotgun, one doing this with an axe, one doing this, and he just casually put one with a baseball bat, say, with wire around it, like that.
You're like, yep.
So I was doing that. So I drew them all, and what I didn't realise, Robert was looking at them all, and that's how he was going to choose Negan, or the main villain.
Right.
And he said, I like the one with the baseball bat. That could be Negan. I was like, yeah, fine. And so it was kind of this weird sort of hybrid of both me drawing everything up and then Robert looking at them all going, oh, yeah, that's the one.
Yeah.
So that's kind of where Lucille and Negan's costume came from. His face obviously didn't come from that because it was all the faces were cut off and down to the waist. So the face was another interesting. At first, I was kind of thinking, wouldn't it be good if it was a female? Because we've already had a male villain.
Yeah,
that's right. Major male, the governor.
The governor, that's right.
Yeah, we've already had a male villain. Yeah. So at first. But then, obviously we did come up with a female villain in Alpha down the line, so that sort of fulfilled that. But Robert was saying, no, I'd like it to be, sort of quite a thick set, individual.
Yeah. And that bat is iconic now. I mean, for people that don't know The Walking Dead, Lucille is a bat carried by one of the main villains, Negan, wrapped in barbed wire. And this thing is sold everywhere, comic books all around the world. This thing,
it's the easiest cosplay.
Yeah,
you just wear it. I'm cosplaying as Negan at the moment because I'm wearing a leather jacket. It is literally the easiest cosplay. Yeah. All you have to do is wear a leather jacket. Perhaps you might wear a red sort of scarf.
Yeah.
You get a baseball bat, wrap some barbed wire around it. It ain't hard.
Unfortunately, I haven't got the hair for it. So.
And it's because you can get the
lack of hair for it.
You can get the rubber barbed wire, can't you? That goes around.
Oh God! Well, I've got loads of Negan. Loads of Lucille toys that I've been sent. Obviously, official baseball bats of varying sizes. But, amazingly
explain
get
that
through
away
customs,
in the post.
I
was going to say.
I was just going to say, don't break into Charlie's ever.
And if you
actually, that heavy plastic is still quite. You whack them around their head with that. I think the plastic barbed wire might bend as it connects, but that heavy duty plastic one that'll give you.
You'll know about that, wouldn't you?
That'll give you a headache, So I do have finally a weapon at home. So there you go, burglars, be warned.
If you ever get raided, you've got a lot of explaining to do. Why have we got an arsenal?
Excuse me, sir, where did you get this from?
Yeah, so anyone thinking of breaking into my house, beware. I'll be standing there naked in a leather jacket and a baseball bat. Come on! There you go. Shall we finish on that? On that lovely image.
So creating so many iconic characters, things like that, like you and Robert, like one of the highest selling independent comic books, big TV show. What happened? Why did you decide to kill it? Well, I mean, because you did it in the most ingenious way, but it was so rock and roll.
Totally wrong-footed everybody, didn't we?
Mic drop.
Yeah, it was. Well, believe it or not, it was 4 years ago we started talking about this, the end. And I remember emailing Robert saying, I really think we need an out. Whether it's 6 issues time or 60 issues time, I just felt like, I'd been working on the book already by that time for nearly 12 years. So I just think, not that I've had enough.
Yeah.
It's a weird thing. I didn't think I had enough, but I just wanted to know when we were ending. Because before that, we were just carrying on indefinitely. Yeah. We were always saying, we could carry on for the next 20 years. Who knows?
You're like,
yeah. And I was like, yeah. No, at the time before that, I was like, yeah, whatever. Yeah. And but then after a while, I just think, no, I just need to know. And then what I didn't realise that Robert was also thinking the same thing, because he knew he had plotted, because he told me the ending probably 2 or 3 years prior to that email. But of course, then he said this is years away, sort of thing. And at that time, we knew we'd probably get to that point because the book was doing so well. There was no reason for it not to ever get to that point. So. What I didn't realise after I sent that email was Robert was thinking the same thing, and he'd sort of already mentally plotted out all the story in his head, and he realised it was only going to go to a certain number of issues. So he was thinking, that could be it, So thankfully we were both in agreement, and we agreed at the time. I think I was probably about 40 plus issues off where we finished in the end. So we agreed, we said, well, let's finish what we call the compendium, which is the big, because obviously everything in The Walking Dead is collected, and we do the single issues, the monthly issues, we do the 6-issue collections, we do the 12-issue collections, we do a very special 24-issue collection with a slipcase and stuff, which is great for Christmas, kids, and birthdays, obviously. And then we do this monstrous brick of a book, this 48-issue collection, which is called the compendium. So we actually finished at the end of the 4th compendium, which makes it all nice and neat. Yeah. So everything is like volumed out sort of thing. There is no few issues that are left sort of straggling. So it made sense to do that. A lot of people thought we'd finish at issue 200, but it makes no sense. I know it sounds crazy to the uninitiated, but finishing at issue 200 would mean you'd have all these sort of spare issues that you couldn't collect. Well, you could collect them, but they'd be all all wrong. It'd be all wrong, So we decided that about four years ago, and slowly built up. Talking about it as we were going along, slowly built up to our big finale.
It was such a shock, though, because I remember this like it was yesterday. You were like, here are some future covers of The Walking Dead. And then 2 days later, all I heard was...
I can now tell you a story. Yeah? Not a story, but at Comics Salopia. Do you remember? You must remember because I saw you. I was chatting to Eric Stevenson, who's the publisher of Image Comics.
Yes.
Out in the sort of that middle bit of the 6th form, and you were sort of hanging around.
That was the
yeah. I remember that.
Yeah. You do know what we were talking about.
The end.
We were talking because Eric was the only guy apart from our respective wives and a few very close friends. Eric was the only guy involved with Image / Skybound Comics that knew.
Right.
Because Eric's he's a good friend of mine, but he's a really good friend of Robert's. So it was kind of, for us, it was great.
We were that close, dude.
You were that. I seriously thought you were listening in. And I was looking at Eric. Because Eric was the one who was talking loudly. And I was looking at Eric going, I saw you. I was going, there's some people
it's the mouthpieces of Shrewsbury.
Yeah, and I'm thinking, it's only a month left before we're going to literally announce this. We can't fall at the last hurdle. Yeah. So I honestly thought, they're bloody listening in.
Oh my God.
Brilliant.
Because he was going, oh yeah, the end of the walk. You go, oh, what do you think? Oh, it's great to talk to somebody about him because I haven't been able to talk to anybody apart from Robert, blah, 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 you know. And I was going, keep it down, you know. And then all yours. Because he was so quiet in that courtyard and there was no one else around. So it felt like his voice, it's probably my paranoia, his voice was bouncing off all the walls. I was thinking, oh my God.
And then all you hear is, you want to come on my podcast? I was this close to a world exclusive.
Oh my God. If it had come out, I'd have known who it was.
We wouldn't be existing today and we wouldn't be on that Monopoly board.
I remember like I was watching Fat Man Beyond, which is Kevin Smith's big thing in LA, and he was like, "Oh man, the Walking Dead's the most baller, the most metal thing they could ever do." And they hoodwinked everybody into thinking there's more issues, and they just ended it, man. They just killed it, and I was like, "Yeah." He mentioned you by name as well.
We were this close, dude. We were this close.
You were this close. You were the closest anyone's come, I think. Literally.
Oh my God!
We'll take that. I'll take that.
But yeah, it was great because we did exactly what we wanted to do in the end. We went out on our own terms. We went out as the comic was still big news. Yeah. We caused a really big stir, which is obviously what you wanted to do, and it was great because no one's ever done that before, you know. And yeah, it worked perfectly. It was
definitely an atom bomb in the world press. I got to say. Before we sign off and stuff, like what's come after The Walking Dead for you? Then what's next?
Good rest. No. Yeah, honestly, because last year was I finished The Walking Dead and actually drawing it in April. Then it was announced in July. I finished a French book called Vampire State Building a couple of months later. So that was quite a long term thing, just because I was trying to do it in my spare time. You know, so that filled out any laughable spare time that I had in the last sort of 2 or 3 years previous. So that was completed. So that probably took me up to sort of September time, and then I kind of been. It's quite nice. I've been kicking back a bit. I've got a house to build, so but
how's that going?
Slowly. But that's taking up more and more time as we get nearer. So I'm kind of glad The Walking Dead's finished, but. Yeah, I'm actually, the main thing is I'm working with my old friend Robbie Morrison.
I like Robbie. Robbie's a nice guy.
Yeah, and we've worked on, you mentioned one of the things we worked on together, which was Nikolai Dante, which is Robbie's own creation for 2000 AD. But we also did a book together 20 odd years ago called White Death, which holds a special place in my heart because it was my first creator-owned book. But we're working on a new thing now called Heretic, which is a 16th century set murder mystery story set in Antwerp in Belgium around about the Spanish Inquisition time.
That sounds good, actually. It grabs me because I'm a big Halo fan. Heretic.
There you go. But we haven't even got, I say we haven't got a publisher. There's plenty of people that have gone, you know. But we're just taking it really casually. It's really nice to be able to do that. Just to do the book. Robbie, thankfully, isn't not. He's always a real chilled guy, and he's not overly concerned about, you know, getting a publisher straight away. He's quite happy to work, shall we say, unpaid until we find the right place to put it. So I'm just quite happy. It's a finite thing.
There's always room for the next big thing in comic books as well. I mean, I don't know. I thought it was done and dusted. I thought we'll do whatever's up there. We'll live on for a bit. But then Gerard Way comes out with the Umbrella Academy and it blows up. And I was just like, it's always something new.
There's always something new.
There's lots of opportunity.
Well, I am honestly quite content now. I've done the big thing.
Yeah.
I'm honestly quite content just to. I mean, don't get me wrong, The Walking Dead has enabled me to do this, but I'm quite happy just to sit back, do my own thing now, whatever I want to do.
Yeah.
Nice.
And never do an ongoing series again.
And you do a lot around the town as well. Obviously, are you still the Hive ambassador?
Oh, absolutely, yeah. No, the Hive's an amazing place, and I will continue to be the Hive patron ambassador. For as long. Of course, another ending last year was my role as Comics Laureate. That's all done and dusted. I've given that over to Hannah Berry now, a fantastic artist and writer. So she's in control.
What
she's
duties
doing amazing
did you have
things.
as that as the Comic Laureate? What came to you for that? Was a lot of openings, lots of events?
Well, it wasn't openings. It was just. It was an honour, obviously.
Absolutely,
I really didn't
yeah.
expect to be asked to do it at all. It took me out of my comfort zone considerably because I had to kind of almost do presentations, which I'm not really used to.
Yeah.
And it was just another interesting thing to do because I never considered talking about comics as not as a literature. I totally believe in comics as literature, and I totally believe in comics for everybody. But to go and talk specifically about educational things as well, I'm going to talk to teachers and librarians and things like that, and talk to them and talk to people that aren't necessarily aware of comic books as a form of education or as a form of literacy. It was really interesting.
And that's probably quite a powerful thing, isn't it, as well? Because you think in schools there are certainly when I was at school, there was set reading material you had to do. It was always books, it wasn't comics. But if there is a child that, for whatever reason can't go with just words, but then they can pick up a comic and go with the pictures and put the words with it,
oh, absolutely.
Then, I think that sort of thing should be encouraged more and more in schools.
Oh, absolutely. I think it encourages reading, not discourages reading.
Yeah, totally agree.
So, I was more up for the challenge, and Hannah's doing amazing work, actually. She's taking it one step further, which is amazing. So it's nice to see that I think each of us, because there's been 3 so far. I was the middle one. Dave Gibbons was the original creator of Watchmen. Dave sort of started it all rolling. I sort of took it one step further, and Hannah's taken it many steps further. So it's great to see that the role is very much still a thing, and will carry on hopefully into the far future.
Oh, wow. Well, thank you so much for joining us, Charlie. That was awesome.
My pleasure.
You're welcome on any time.
Thank you.
No awkwardness anymore. We've put it, be honest, we did bring paper to ask you to do drawings, but I'm not going to do that to you today. No.
Well, I can come on next time and do
you got 10 seconds.
We wanted us as zombies to put up in here, but we'll do it.
Right. Well, next time.
So I've got this
now I know where you are.
Well, in all the free time that you've got now,
Don't forget my Constantine. Thank you. I'm a big fan of yours, Charlie, and thank you so much for coming on the show. Is there anything you want to sort of shout out? Anybody? Anything you want to?
I've said what's coming up. No, I've got nothing. Oh God, is there anything?
No.
No, my mind's gone blank. Of course, my mind's gone blank.
Just keep buying The Walking Dead. Keep buying it.
Even though it's finished. Keep buying the reprints.
Has anybody got anything to add on this?
Nope.
No,
that's great. Let's let the man go.
Well, guys, we brought you Charlie Adlard to the show, and it was awesome. I hope you enjoyed it. I just want to give a shout out to our sponsors, who are Gin Different. If you are a fan of gin, if you're not a fan of gin, make sure you check out their bar in the Market Hall. They can also get you those obscure bottles of gin you can't get in Asda's or Tesco's, and they do have pop-up bars that go around the festivals and things. Make sure you check them out on Facebook. Give them a follow. Thank you again, Charlie. This has been awesome.
Thank you. Brilliant. Thank you.
And I'll catch you guys next time.
Thank you very much.
Cool.
Peace.
Take care.
Bye.
Bye.